What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we are going to be talking all about green water, so make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out all of the links in the description and make sure you're part of the Fanatics Facebook group. Today, as I said in the last video, we're going to be talking all about green water, the positives and the negatives. You may also notice that the tank is lovely and clear. It is absolutely gin clear now and it looks so much better. I'm so much happier with that. And that was all down to the UV unit we used. Last video you saw me unbox the All Pond Solutions UV, which is 9 watts. This is the CUV209 and this cost me about £31. So I fitted that and within 72 hours the water was absolutely lovely and clear. So let's get on to green water now. So green water has its positives and its negatives. Firstly, let me tell you what green water is. So when your water starts to tinge a greenish colour, or you may see some local lakes or some park ponds that are really green, that isn't actually dirt, it's actually a unicellular algae that is suspended within the water column, and this tiny microscopic algae that is green in colour basically explodes and there becomes millions and billions of these tiny little cells floating around the water, which is why the water ends up turning that green colour. Now, although this algae isn't harmful, it can have some positives and it can have some negatives. So firstly, I'll start off with the negatives because there aren't really too many and it's more of a positive thing. However, firstly, we'll start off, the green algae does make your tank look horrible. For most people viewing it, I would say, maybe some people like it, but I'd say the majority out there, 99.9% of people, do not like their tank looking green. They want it that pristine, really clear colour. So it is a negative to have that, unfortunately. And the only way really to get rid of it is to have a UV just like this one here. So you can get a UV sterilizer and a UV clarifier, which will get rid of that green water. And what the UV does, as the water flow passes through it, the UV kills and damages cells, whether it be a parasite or algae, for example, and that causes it to die, and then it will all get collected into your filter. Now, these algae cells grow when there is high levels of light, phosphate and nitrate, and generally if you do a water change to try and eliminate the green water, it will just come back because you're adding more nutrients from your tap water or your water source, unless you're using RO, for example. Now, especially with goldfish, green water, once it starts, it can rapidly bloom and cover your tank. Now, green water, a negative is that although it will add oxygen to your tank in the daytime, it will really enrich the water. At night time, it can strip that oxygen back out and it can cause oxygen levels to crash sometimes or go really low. Now, in the day, the algae is consuming CO2 and releasing the oxygen, but in the night, the algae is consuming that oxygen and releasing CO2. Now, sometimes in rare situations and rare scenarios, the high levels of CO2 getting put out by the bacteria in soft water areas could also potentially lead to a pH crash as well. So that is another thing to think about. If you've got really green water, you've heavily stocked, you need to add some oxygenation, whether that be an air pump with some air stones or lots of surface agitation. Now, in the terms of goldfish, they don't like high flow, so you'll need to incorporate that within your tank so the flow is not too much for the fish. Now, also, if you're in a really soft water area, you may need to think about this a bit more and monitor your pH and your KH or GH to make sure that water is nice and buffered and there's not going to be any swings going on. Also, probably I'd say the final negative of green water is that if you have a planted tank or you've got any plants near the bottom or mid-water, the green water can really strip out all the nutrients, which will remove those nutrients from your plants. The algae will grow far quicker and far better than your plants will, so it could outcompete them. And not only with the nutrients, but also with the light. They may block that light from getting down into the water column, which could also kill those plants as well. Now we've covered all the negatives, we can get on to the positives. I think green water can be a real positive in quite a lot of different situations. And a lot of people who aren't too clued up on green water think that your tank is really dirty and you're doing harm for the fish, but it is in fact quite the opposite. When using green water, it can have many benefits. For example, green water will remove the nitrates and the phosphates within the water, which will give your fish a lovely pristine environment to live in if it is well maintained. Now, green water is very common in ponds outdoors, and it can protect the fish from predators. It can make them feel more secure and more safe in their environment, so they will potentially grow better or thrive more. Now, green water is commonly used in the koi industry. Similar to a mud pond, the green water has been linked with improved skin quality, improved colour, improved luster as well on the fish. And I definitely noticed that when this tank was green, the fish did seem a little bit brighter, their colours were showing up more. I don't know whether this is down to the colour of the water being dark, so the fish's dark colours come out more and we get more different tones in the scales potentially. I'm not too sure, but that is something to think about. Green water culture can also be really good for live food. If you've got a natural pond or a tank with maybe sponge filters, you could release some Daphnia into that, which the population would absolutely destroy all of that algae. They would breed, and then it's free live food for your fish, which will improve growth and lead to really healthy, strong fish. So that's also another thing to think about. You can also take samples of that green water to culture live foods in separate tanks or separate water vessels, for example, as well. And I'd say finally, a small point, using green water, as I said, for the negative was it's stripping oxygen at night. It can also add lots of oxygen during the day, which is when the fish are respiring most, they're feeding the most, and they are just doing their daily swimming activities, which is when they require the most oxygen. So if you've got oxygen-rich water when the fish are consuming their food, respiring, they will do that more efficiently and they will be better off. Although it can reduce the oxygen levels at night, if you've got a good aerator or good surface agitation, then this isn't really going to be too much of a problem and the fish will really enjoy it. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope maybe I've informed some of you who thought green water was a negative and a bad thing to have, whereas it can be actually quite a positive thing if you can look past it obviously being dirty looking tank or not being able to see the fish too well. It can have its positives, especially for breeders and goldfish groomers and fish hobbyists who are trying to bring on young fish and don't need to worry too much about the colour of the water, and they're more focused on the growth rate and the health of the fish. So that's it for this video. Tying this into next video, I'm going to start to set up a planter on top of the tank, and we're actually going to try and make a natural planted filter. Now it's not going to use any electricity, it's just going to be added onto the tank, and it's going to be applicable for all of you goldfish and aquarium hobbyists out there, because you should be able to do a fairly similar setup. Maybe it need a bit of modification as well, but hopefully you'll be able to replicate it. Now, we're probably not going to get it finished next video, but I'm going to show you how I'll set it all up. So if you guys want to try that, then you can go for that as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching as always. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.